Welcome to Combat COVID-19 Community Support. We're so glad you've joined us tonight. We have a wonderful presentation from our friends at Central Oregon Pediatric Associates. We have Mary Rogers, a pediatrician there, and Regina Joshi, a behavioral health consultant. And they're going to be talking all about how to keep your kids active, connected, and safe this summer. But before we dive into that, really quickly, we wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are. We're really an informal coalition of healthcare providers and other community leaders that are coming together to bring you a series of live events focused on how to care for you and your health during the pandemic. And we're funded by the Central Oregon Health Council. Now, you should know that this information is provided for educational purposes only, and it is not offered as medical advice or medical opinions. If you do require medical care or mental health care, please contact your healthcare provider. And Dr. Rogers and Regina have agreed to take questions, so they definitely want to hear from our audience, whether you're joining us on Facebook or YouTube tonight. So please use your chat box to type in, and we will definitely get to those. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Rogers.
Hi, everyone. Am I in a good spot here? Well, welcome. My name is Mary Rogers. I'm a pediatrician here in Bend, Oregon. Have been here for almost a decade now, and over at COPA, working with a wide team of specialists and whatnot, but mostly just kind of taking this journey with families. We have kind of been part of a lot of steps and along this way of COVID or coronavirus, and hearing a lot of struggles that families are having as through this long haul of new uncharted territory for all of us, new information for us to share with you guys, but also information as parents as we're kind of helping our children and teens navigate this really kind of uncertain world. So first I wanted to really kind of give everyone a big thumbs up for their hard work. You know, being in our community of our size, we've seen our community pull together in incredible ways, supporting each other emotionally, but also really embracing as best we can this concept of, you know, physical distancing and social distancing, and you know, the difference between all of those, and really recentering ourselves with our families, but really trying to support our kids at how to really stay connected when their worlds have been kind of upside down. So, you know, from a medical standpoint, we've seen really impressive numbers from a community-wise with new cases. Our hospital has seen really a lot of the benefit of the social distancing that everyone has been working incredibly hard for. As a medical community, we've had a great opportunity to kind of rise up to our protective gear and everything that we need, not even for us, but also from a medical standpoint to support our community and in different fluxes of a new virus that we're trying to navigate. So I did want to encourage everyone to kind of continue to stay the course with what they're doing. We are so grateful as physicians and medical providers, and even our vulnerable community is really grateful. We're all looking forward to the next step, because we know that this is not sustainable in the long haul. And, you know, with each passing day and week, we're getting closer, but also really wanting to thank everyone in our community for really stepping up for that too. So thank you. I think one of the other things, and what we're really excited to talk about with families tonight, is really, how do we connect our kids with family that is not living in our house, with their friends? We're seeing a lot of challenging aspects of it. So part of that is what we are here to talk about.
Yeah. And to bounce off of that too, Dr. Rogers, just kind of normalizing the fatigue that we might be feeling. So part of our intention of coming together to talk to is maybe coming up with new ideas on how we can still distance, but feel fulfilled and feel like we are still getting that sort of connection. So Dr. Rogers and I came together and we came up with a couple of ideas on ways to really keep that up while maintaining our distance. For many of you know, Dr. Rogers and I both have little kids. So these are some things that we brainstormed that we are just even doing in our own home. So Dr. Rogers, do you want to tell us some of the things that you're doing with your daughter?
Oh boy. Yeah. It's interesting. So my daughter is going to be 4 in July. We're at a really she was in preschool kind of leading up to all of this. And then with very little notice or no notice, kind of had a shift in regards to what her whole life looks like. I think that for kids before they're in school, I think a lot of them are enjoying our attention. But I think right at this point, they're also realizing that hey, life is way different, and I'm not seeing my friends, and my routine is totally different as well too.
And I think it's fair to say, some anxiety about what it's even going to look like about going back to school.
Yeah.
So I think it can be also really good to keep up that conversation about the friends that they're going to see when they go back, and the things that gave them that consistency to begin with that will get back there. I know something that we've been doing in our home to kind of keep up social connection with familiar people who we're not seeing is writing thank you cards to the essential neighbors in our neighborhood and dropping them off or sticking them to the garage. It's an art project that feels pretty good. And then on the other end, it makes the other person who isn't able to be home feel pretty good that they're being noticed for their work.
Yeah.
So
we've sent a lot of little cards to our friends as well. A lot of my fellow buddies, we've had some Zoom meetings as well, or different times where we're talking about it. And it's interesting to see at different ages. I think for toddlers and late toddlers and preschool age kids, sometimes actually seeing their friends but not being able to interact with them can be a little challenging, because they don't really kind of understand that whole concept of it. We've done little kind of drop off gifts on porches for friends and stuff like that. And my daughter's really kind of gotten excited about making cards for her specific friends, or coming up with which stickers to pick out and put inside the envelopes and whatnot. And so it's kind of given her a chance to stay somewhat connected, but also being able to kind of process the distancing as well too.
Yeah. And what I think is great about doing something like that is there's an end, right? There's not that weird period of, am I going to go? How close can I get to my friends? And what is okay, what's not okay? Navigating that unknown, but really kind of completing a project and then being able to send it off with kind of clear understanding about, where that activity ends. Yeah. So
I think one of the other things that, I think a lot of people are talking about how to FaceTime with family, which we've kind of set up, or even family meetings where we're trying to get our kids to kind of engage with friends or family and stuff like that. And a lot of my friends, and we're seeing this as well too, is a lot of kind of fatigue or disinterest in that as well. I think it can be a little challenging for kids to kind of show up to a big forum like that and really kind of figure out where their place is with it, and then how to kind of, I think, engage in a dialogue with kids their same age, but even, older than them and stuff like that. I think it can be a little, unnerving for them. And then I think as for parents like us, we come and we're like, oh, Nana and Papa are right there.
Right.
Let's have this huge interaction. And my kid's spinning in the back corner, or that's the moment that we're having a meltdown or something
right.
like that. And I think
out the window. Yeah.
And we've just have kind of just met her where she is. And I think that's something that I'm encouraging families via either if we're doing telehealth visits or even in the clinic for individual visits, is just really trying to meet our kids emotionally where they are and not try to convince them that they need to
be a part of
participate in things that it doesn't feel comfortable for them, but also trying to find creative ways for them to engage in things that they're interested in too.
Yeah. And really it's adjusting your expectation too as a parent, right? So if you're having Nanny and Pop-Pop on the other side of the line, Nanny and Pop-Pop are getting that fulfillment of even just seeing their grandkid on the other side. So I think that it's about adjusting our expectations as parents in terms of how our kids perform on this really new platform.
Yeah. One of the things that we have found helpful at our house to kind of engage in that forum with our specific age child or developmental age kid is she actually does projects over the over kind of telecommunication with, so we'll invite grandma and grandpa to make bread or like, make chocolate chip cookies with us, and we'll set up like the thing next to her, like mixing bowl and stuff like that. And her job is to teach them how to make cookies.
That's fun.
And, and they seem like really interested and pretend to like take bites from the computer and stuff like that. But again, it allows her to kind of participate in an activity and that she's kind of interested and invested in, but also that they get to kind of be part of, in a connective type of way too.
Yeah. So one question that I know I'm getting a lot, and I'm sure you're getting a lot too, is how do we answer questions about COVID and the quarantine, for littles in terms of what their brain can understand?
Yeah.
I know, a really important thing, that I talk to families about and that I do in my own home is really just validating emotion, right? I think that's the first thing, is validating, feeling frustrated that the park is closed or feeling sad.
Yeah.
And I think another good way too is reframing it. When they have concerns or worries about reframing and trying to find it in a different light, like we'll get back there soon, and really just answering their questions to the best of our ability with, checking our own anxiety and not making sure that we're not, exuding our own anxious thoughts onto them, and what they're looking for.
Right.
Yeah. Is that a question that you get?
Quite a bit, actually, at home, and then just I think from families too. And I think that I don't think a lot of kids in the younger age don't really don't kind of get this concept of weeks versus months versus when does that change, or whatnot. And I don't think we necessarily need to kind of harp on like, oh, it's going to maybe summertime, because that seems pretty far off to them. Like maybe summer the parks will be open again, or we can do these things. Is if you're seeing them kind of, and it's usually pretty obvious in their face of their disappointment of things,
right?
Rather than kind of the time frame of it, just to say, yeah, it's really hard that the park is not open, or that we can't see your cousins right now, or like it's hard when we miss people, and even like what might be a good way for us to connect with them and put them inside or what way can we, if we can't go to the park, what's another way that might be fun for you to play and whatnot, and kind of reframing it in a way that they can kind of come up with a solution as well.
Yeah, and looking forward to something, right? Like, oh, when we do go to the park, what should we play? And getting their imagination going, and I think too that can help take that focus on the we can't right now. I think it's so easy to focus on the things that we can't do around us as an adult or as a kid too. So kind of trying to paint that picture of the things that we can do and the things that we can do when we get back.
Yeah.
So it's not always not right. I feel so often too, it can fall into that pattern of saying not right now or in a little bit, or once they say we can, like really focusing on the present and our ability to have choice and to make decisions, to use our imagination and to find ways to make us feel so good.
Yeah, for the people that are kind of connected through Facebook and through some other kind of social media type stuff, I've seen a lot of local communities, like just neighborhoods, really kind of rally together to find ways to keep our littles engaged. I know that there's, bear hunts that are going on all around Bend, where I've seen people like post maps online where, people are putting the bears up in the windows and the kids can kind of go and go hunting for them. Lots of different little scavenger hunts. I know it's one of the communities, one of the little neighborhoods around here has done like a variety of different houses doing fairy gardens with little surprises for the kids to kind of come and kind of look for it as well. We've made a bunch of little scavenger hunts all through our backyard where we like draw a map of the yard and hide little things for my daughter to find too.
And it can be so easy to do, right? Like just taking a piece of paper and for a scavenger hunt, even just drawing out, 7 things that you'll see on your walk to get little engagement, to cross it out or to get their imagination going. So. I know another big question we get, or just a worry from parents, is the amount of tech time that has maybe increased in the home. So maybe it's not your home. I can say it's increased a bit in my home.
Yeah.
Which is, as if you're working, sometimes you need that. So giving yourself some grace in terms of how you incorporate it. I think if anything, kids thrive off consistency. So tech time, if it's going to be something you're using, making sure kids know when they're going to anticipate it. Otherwise, we might find ourselves in this cycle where our kid is asking for it over and over and over again. And maybe on the 5th time they ask, we finally give in. And so that's just going to prompt them to ask over and over and over again, hoping we're going to give in. So if there's some of those clear expectations on, all right, you get it at, certain time or when the timer goes off, whatever it is, I think that can be really helpful.
Yeah, I think we've definitely had an increase at our house as well. We've done it within a certain time frame. So, before a certain time, we don't have it. We call it Emmy's choice. My daughter's name is Emmy. We call it Emmy's choice. So she knows at a certain time it's her choice. And sometimes she doesn't choose to watch a little show. We still use it ideally if we're not stuck doing work or whatnot, we'll do it as a conversational piece. So we'll sit down with her and talk about the little show that she's watching or whatnot. But there's been times where she'll watch it for a little bit and turn it off and move on to something else. But
that's great. That's not my kid. He's very motivated. You'll always elect for
but
that.
It kind of depends. And I think after a busy day of kind of playing outside and doing a lot of activities, it actually, kind of settling into the couch for a little bit of time is definitely well appreciated by all.
And also they can earn it too. One of the rules in our house is we have to clean up all our toys before we can turn it on. It's not a right. It's a privilege. But we can set our kids up for success if we know we need that screen time just to get through making dinner or finishing up a call, whatever. Set kids up to earn it by setting small goals, not a big goal. So that way they feel good. You don't feel like maybe you're giving in a time that you wouldn't want to give in, and also you're not taking it away from maybe everyone who would really benefit from a 20-minute break.
I think one of the things is I always tell families don't threaten something you don't want to follow
right.
through on. So
there's nothing worse.
I think that if there's things throughout the day where you're well, you're going to lose your screen time. You got
to back it up if you're going to do it.
Really lose the screen time and whatnot. And I like the idea of actually rather than saying if you don't clean up your toys, you don't get your things. Actually, using it as a reward of saying, reframing it in a positive manner. And I also having grace with ourselves that yes. Many people are having a little bit of extra, right. A little extra flexibility with things that in the past maybe would have been structured differently.
Yeah,
and that is totally okay.
Yeah, and making that big goal a small goal. So maybe just cleaning up one toy is a win for that night, and you're doing it together. So it could be fun. We've got some resources too for the littles in terms of free things that you can read. There's a cool ebook right now on COVID-19 with little bumblebees that helps explain it to kids. And there's a little rating skill at the end too about anxiety, and it creates a really good space for conversation to just talk about it and to talk about really directly what your fears are and what that looks like.
And children, and I'm sure Regina could touch on this a little bit too, but children that are kind of that preschool age, they're sponges. They pick up on our worries and stress. We have to obviously kind of take care of ourselves as well too, but they can tell that we're thinking about a lot of things and very worried about stuff. And they may not come out obviously and say that they're scared or worried. And you may just see it more on the emotional end of things where there's more meltdowns over things that they previously would have been able to hold it together for. And so you might kind of see more kind of regressive behaviors or just more emotional stuff. And they very well may not have words to the feelings that they're having and figuring out what it is, and just holding space with them, and sometimes even just saying, you're safe and it's okay, can really give you some good mileage with that age group particularly.
Yeah, just being present has a lot.
So I think that the next age group is kind of the school age, right? Like
the teens.
Yeah.
And if anyone's feeling fatigued by social distancing, I think this population would be waving their hands. Because if you think about it, like teens, even in their extracurriculars or hobbies, so much of it is social, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, kids are playing soccer, playing basketball, and that's all, you know, it's a hobby and it's social. So the sudden switch away, you know, taking away the learning piece, but then also how they get their, you know, for some kids, how they get their exercise and then how they get their social piece. Like their world was really rocked in this, and it all came very sudden.
Yeah. We're fielding a lot of calls from parents and teenagers, particularly too, that we're seeing a little bit more of an uptick of their anxiety and their stress and mood stuff as well. Even in kind of grade school age too, I think people are kind of seeing a lot of those kind of increased struggles with that. I think that as we are kind of going into this next stretch of things, really encouraging families, you know, to continue to help them with their connectiveness, but also kind of keeping a specific eye out for anxiety or depression and whatnot. My patients that historically have been pretty well controlled with their anxiety, with their support, I know that a lot of families are just seeing them kind of process things and a lot of bubbling up effect and stuff like that. So, you know, kind of reaching out to us if they're, you know, we're a lot of familiar faces for them, but kind of reaching out to us if their kids are particularly struggling. Parents have a pretty good spidey sense of where their kids are with it. But I think, you know, we have that, but then we also have all the additional, I think, grieving that our teenagers have in regards to kind of losing their half of a school year as well.
Especially for those seniors, you know, it was a quick move for graduation and kind of onto the real world for them. So I think you're right, grieving things that maybe they didn't even want to participate in, right? Like grieving going to prom or graduation. And I've talked to a lot of kids who are like, I didn't even want to go, but now the choice was just taken from me.
Right.
Now I'm mad that someone took that choice from me. And I think that's important to validate. Like, that's right. Like, none of this was your choice. And what you thought was going to be this huge ceremony. Like, I have one kid, he's the first kid to graduate from high school out of his whole family. And now he's like, now I don't even get a celebration. I don't get anything. So I think it's okay just to sit with them and say exactly that. Like, this is not easy.
Yeah. And I think validating that, and I think that, I think a lot of times we try to kind of bring out the bright side of things, like, yeah, but you're healthy.
That doesn't feel good.
Really sit very well when you've kind of given up a lot of things. You've given up your sports, a lot of things that were your identity, a lot of things that you were looking forward to in a variety of different ways, is actually just validating that this is, we don't have an answer for this right now, but it is hard, and trying to encourage them to discover different ways to engage in connectivity with, and people tell me that their kids are participating in singing groups, across the country, or even just with their friends here, or getting online and playing games with each other.
I think geocaching, geocaching right now, funny enough,
is a hot item.
A pretty popular thing. Online workouts too, right? Like, a ton of places are offering them, even within our own community. So checking that out, and even doing them with a friend. Have a little accountability buddy over FaceTime, and setting your own personal goals. Like, maybe you're a runner, you like to bike, like setting new goals to kind of push yourself and channel that frustration and anger that you might have, or anxiety, into something that's positive and pro-social, that's not, just going to have you in front of a video game the entire day. It's so important to schedule this time to get outside and to move your body, and to smell some fresh air, because it smells good right now.
Yeah, and as important as routine is on our little kids, also on ourselves, but even our teenagers is really important. I think that routine includes, like a set time that you're doing schoolwork, a routine in the morning of trying to get up right around the same time. It may not be the same early time that you were getting up before, but that there is some consistency with like trying to get to bed at a decent hour, waking up at a reasonable time, and really scheduling in physical activity as well, just like you would schedule in any other type of meeting or whatnot. But it's incredibly important. And I know a lot of our teenagers are really kind of figuring out how this online learning or distance learning or engagement works with them. And particularly our hardworking students and other students, they're kind of, a lot of people are actually getting really kind of wrapped up into working really hard to do their schoolwork, and all of the other stuff kind of goes out the window.
Right.
I've had a lot of parents tell me like, yeah, like they spend 6 hours doing their schoolwork, their AP classes, some of their more kind of challenging stuff, and then by the time that the day has kind of wound down, they haven't been outside all day.
Yeah, or on the opposite, so many teens right now who just don't want to do anything with their schoolwork, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that is a good time too, as a parent, to try and reach out to the teacher to ask for help. Kids struggling to do their schoolwork is pretty common, and I know a lot of parents are feeling a little defeated by that. And we're not intended to do it all. We are a community in this together. So, reach out and say, hey, I'm trying to get my kid to do their learning, but I can't. Do you have any suggestions? So at least you're just opening that door for communication.
And it's a different type of learning as well. And so
right.
That someone that could have done, really kind of flourished in like a classroom setting can really kind of grapple differently with what online learning really kind of entails as well too, and that also can be really challenging for people that normally it kind of came a little bit easier with being in school.
Yeah. Another top question I get from a lot of my families too is my teenager only wants to be in their room. That they don't want to come out for anything, maybe a meal, but that's about it. And that is a very, very common thread. And I think that there is some benefit too, as a teenager, having your alone time, having your space, there's a lot of comfort in that. But if you're worried, like this is really teetering to a scary spot where actually I don't really get to see my kid, I think talking to them too about scheduling time in terms of when you get to recluse and have your alone time, and setting up expectations for the family in terms of how we're going to spend time together. Like, it doesn't mean we all need to sit down and kumbaya and really like enjoy each other's company, but it's about like being around each other. So maybe being in the living room and doing your game with your mom next to you while she's doing her thing, but just getting that connectivity. And, I think that dinner is a good opportunity to really make sure your kid is coming out and, trying to spend that time together.
We're all getting to spend a lot more intimate time with each other. And I think, siblings are getting to spend a lot more intimate time with each other. And I think a lot of families are saying, like, it is creating a little bit more clashing than typical, when they would normally be able to go to school and do their sports and their outlets and then come home and really kind of, have their time frame of when they're doing family meals or things like that, and then go do their schoolwork. Now it's family time 24/7. And so I think we are seeing a lot of people kind of, a lot of teenagers kind of trying to kind of find their space in their new dynamics of their house. But scheduling family time is huge. And that, and even if like your kid is, I keep reading about parents and people telling me like, they're like kind of throwing it out to their teenagers and saying, hey, like, you bring it, you pick it out. Like, if you want to do a dance party, you pick the music, our family will show up.
I love that though. It's like, even if that's not your interest, like,
right.
You gotta buy it for kids.
Right. And let them go with it a little bit. And it might be like whatever, like in your initial inclination, it might be a little uncomfortable as a parent to kind of do what their thing is. But like, if it's something that they're kind of excited about, kind of come up with it framed in some way that, that the whole family can kind of engage with. And sometimes people will, you know, if you have multiple kids, like one night, one kid will kind of choose something, and it might be a specific board games, card games, different things like that too. But like just a set defined period of time where you guys are like doing something, so that there is some activity happening where they can kind of engage with that, rather than, you know, like really kind of like in depth conversation about stuff, but also can be kind of fun and reconnecting. With the family.
Yeah. And I know another thing too, I mean, with all of us, screens are up. And that can be a hard one with teenagers, because right now everything for them is online. It's online learning, online connecting with teachers, online, you know, classes with your friends. And then, you know, they've spent the whole day on screens. And then of course they want to disconnect and spend more time on screens. And of course, like that is such a common way to do that, and to be able to connect socially with your friends. But again, having really clear expectations of what tech time is going to look like. You know, so many teenagers stay up super late, and they're like, yeah, I was playing video games till 1 a.m. Like it's okay to turn those things off, but be consistent with it. So kids know what to expect. You're probably going to get pushback when that time comes. They're not going to be thrilled that they have to turn their screens off at the time that, you know, you deem is right for your house. But, you know, set that consistent time, and then let the other time, you know, be for them to kind of calm their brain down, calm their body down, in whatever way. And having that too is really going to help with the sleep, because we don't want kids right on their screens right before going to bed, because it just makes it harder. And it's, you know, so many kids now fall asleep with their phone in their hand, and it's good to create that separation.
Yeah, absolutely.
We also have some resources here for teenagers on our next slide. So hopefully that can provide you with some help. Then the big question.
Yeah, I think I see this next one coming up.
Yeah, I think that one's all you.
Lifted. How do we safely connect?
That's on you.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's a lot of conversations that we're having. You know, it's not. I don't think we're going to go from 0 to 100 overnight, and there's going to be variations from a community standpoint. Our older kids and our teenagers, absolutely. Like, I think having conversations, you know, I continue to be impressed by teenagers in our community on how like truly altruistic they actually can very well be, and how they have this idea of kind of doing the right thing, but also it's hard for them to kind of stay distant with stuff too. I suspect that when we kind of start reconnecting with people, we're going to be talking about social, maybe not physical distancing, but social distancing, which kind of my thought is, you know, obviously making sure that we're staying home when we're sick, but then also trying to kind of maintain some you know, even when you're present with people, some space between each other as well. You know, I think variations of what that will look like in parks and activities and stuff like that, we'll be able to get together in different ways, but I think it's probably going to look a little bit different for all of us, and there may be times where we have to kind of hunker down a little bit more than others, but I think that kind of brainstorm. I know, Regina, you've kind of talked with some families about like, how do we, when the time comes, what is that going to look like for some of the older kids? Have you, what, any kind of specific?
Oh, in terms of like being able to connect, or
or like as kind of the physical, like what when they can be a little closer together and stuff like that.
Yeah, just coming up with, you know, different ideas where, you know, my neighbor, I saw this and I had to laugh, and there are two teenagers, and one was on one driveway and the other was on the other driveway, and they're just connecting and, you know, doing what they normally did, but really being aware of the need to stay separate. But we are human. We thrive off connection. We need it. It's just about using our brains on how to do it safely. And I think too, it's okay to call each other out, you know, for teenagers on, you know, like, hey, is that really 6 feet? Or, you know, just encouraging each other to continue this effort. So as a community, we can stay safe, we can stay sane, we can do it all best of our ability.
Yeah.
And Dawn, I know that you were going to have some questions from viewers. I don't know if any have popped up yet.
Yeah, Regina, thanks. And thank you to both of you for that really helpful information and what a great discussion. We do not currently have any questions from our viewers, but we're going to give them a few more minutes to respond, to type in their questions so that we can get to them. I have a couple questions for you, which are, so I'm curious, like, with summer plans, like, are you guys canceling your vacations? Are you staying home? Are you trying to like make them into staycations? Like, what is your summer strategy here? I know myself, I just canceled my Airbnb for Glacier National Park for the summer, and it was sad. But I'm just wondering how you two are handling that.
I know for me, I am a planner that just makes my heart happy, and I don't like disappointment. So, from the way I'm going, it's just, we're, staying put and doing the best we can to continue to stay healthy and continue to keep others around us healthy as well. Right. I think when you have little kids, it's important to, they have the benefit of being a little bit healthier through this, and not wanting to connect them with maybe my parents who might be at risk too if anything were to happen. So I guess that's where my mind goes.
Yeah, we do a lot of camping, so we're hoping that things will kind of open up, and if not, maybe trying to find some creative places where we can kind of get away for a weekend. With maybe trying to do some camping trips. I think that, we've had to kind of cancel some trips with grandparents and whatnot, I think just in regards to trying to keep them safe. And then I think we are, even now, when I'm working, my daughter's spending a lot of time with my husband, and they're finding little off-road paths to set up hammocks and play in the dirt and do stuff like that. And I suspect we'll probably have variations of that for our vacation plans if that happens. We didn't have any big trips planned. We usually try to do a bigger camping trip during the summertime, which I suspected that the parks may still be closed. So we may
camping in the backyard. Never better time.
The tent has already been set up.
It seems chilly at night.
Yeah, it does.
Excellent. Okay, so playing in dirt and tents in the backyard. Got it.
Welcome to Central Oregon.
Awesome. Love it.
Luckily, there's plenty of dirt and plenty of outdoor space, which is good. I think that, kind of when we're getting out with our kids and stuff like that, if you're at a kind of a junction or a place and you're like, oh, this is going to be a little tough for my little kid to actually kind of keep space with, I think that might be a little challenging, and maybe trying to find a different spot to kind of hang out and play. But I think, and
following your gut, right? Like, your kid, and figuring out, like, is this just going to be more stressful on me, following my kid around the whole time, or should I come up with a plan B and use some flexible thinking there? So you can still have fun, but also, know how to support your kid in the right way.
All right. So I have one more question for you before we wrap up, which is, I'm curious, what kinds of services are you guys providing right now at Central Oregon Pediatric Associates? What does that look like? What do people do? Like, what services can they get? What can they not get? What's available via telehealth? Maybe just letting the community know what's available.
Yes. So as a behavioral health consultant, I work with kids and families to talk about all things mood, anxiety, depression, you name it. I am here to support. So I have a lot of teenagers on my schedule right now where we just do weekly check-ins, see how things are going, where are the stressors, validate those emotions, and come up with some goals to hopefully be one more positive person in their life, supporting them and making them feel connected. So I think, I don't typically see kids on a weekly basis, but right now, I get off, we wrap up our 30-minute call and I'm like, all right, I'll see you next week. And I think, funny enough, teenagers are pretty open to therapy right now when it's on their phone in their bed, and getting to talk to someone outside of their family. So good.
Yeah, we're doing we're turning into telehealth experts. But we are doing a variety of from a medical standpoint. It's not business quite as usual, but it's as business as best planned as we can. We are still doing wellness checks up to a certain age, and then hopefully, as we do have plans, hopefully in the near future, to start expanding that even to a little bit older, given how great we've done as a community. That's some very near plans. Those wellness checks, we talk about all of the ups and downs and sideways of parenting, and also just how our kids are doing, and then kind of routine kind of medical health stuff. We are doing in clinic. We're still doing we have separated things out, but we still do sick visits, and we are doing a variety of kind of chronic health stuff. And then from a telehealth standpoint, yeah, we've done a lot of mental health follow-ups, med checks, even just kind of check-ins with our patients, with how they're doing with everything. And then doing a lot of other kind of, it's fun to see, I've met so many people's pets.
Lots of tours of home.
Which is kind of fun, because I've heard about their pets, but I've never actually seen them in full action. So it is kind of good. I think one of the great things as having a pediatrician in your family that you've known for the haul is sometimes that familiar face, even if it's over a computer, can actually kind of bring a little bit of sense of normalcy and whatnot to your kids. And we've seen them in the good and the bad, and sometimes just a visit with us can really kind of really be very settling for them as well too. So we're doing a little bit of everything.
Awesome. Great. So the bottom line is lots of care available, either telehealth and some in person, with a lot of safety precautions in place for that. So good to know. All right. Well, thank you again, Regina and Dr. Rogers, for joining us tonight for this discussion around keeping our kids active, connected, and safe given everything going on with COVID. We do want to invite everyone to join us. We have one more live event this week, and it's going to be a great one. We're going to be talking about humor, and you're going to be learning all about the science behind how humor actually impacts both your physical and your mental health, and tips and tricks for how you can get more humor into your daily routine. It's also going to be a very interactive live event where you're going to get to vote on different images and GIFs and things like that. So there's going to be a lot of humor actually in the presentation as well. So we hope you join us for that. Please visit our Facebook page to see a schedule of other live events every week. And you can always see all of the videos recorded on either Facebook or YouTube. And thank you to our production partner, Hand in Hand Productions. And we hope you all have a wonderful evening.